Good morning, happy Monday, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are watching from. It is Whole30 day 29. Almost there, so close to day 30. And if you are joining me on this live today, you're crushing it. You are absolutely crushing it. How do I know? Because you're here. Because nobody's going to show up to this live today and not be absolutely crushing their Whole30. I'm so excited to guide you through the last few days of elimination and transition you so gracefully into reintroduction. We are here. The chat is already blowing up. So excited. Good morning. Good morning. How are we doing today? How are we doing? Good morning, Kathleen. Morning, afternoon, and evening. Kathleen, you should be getting your frother in the mail any day now. Took me a couple days to get it out to you. Sorry about that, but you should be getting it, and I can't wait to see what you froth and all of the delicious frothiness coming to your life. Good afternoon, Maggie. It's your first live. Maggie, welcome. We're excited to have you. You've taken the last 30 days to dial in your food freedom, and it's your favorite book. Well, I love it. Thank you so much for coming. Thanks for watching live. So pumped that you've been able to dial in your food freedom. Feel free to share a little bit about what your food freedom means to you and how the Whole30 helped you get there as a means of inspiring and motivating everybody else in the chat who's finishing up their elimination phase of their Whole30. But I love to hear it. We love to hear it. Fantastic. Maggie is saying, oh yeah, here you go. This is in your food freedom. These satay chips taste better than you remember Doritos. Yeah, okay, I love it. I mean, this is what food freedom is all about. It's about taste testing. It's about experimenting. It's about having the foundation to know which foods actually work for you and which are actually worth it. And Maggie, you can't get there without reintroduction. That's why we've been talking about reintroduction so much in these lives in the last couple days. So we love to hear it. We love to see it. Good morning, Michelle. Day 29. I'm so proud of you too. I was so excited to pop in this morning. I took Saturday off. We don't do lives on Sunday. And I was thinking about y'all all weekend long. I wonder how my Whole30ers are doing. I wonder how their weekends are going. I wonder how they feel. Knowing that you're heading into reintroduction, which is such a fun part of the Whole30. I wonder, did you do your homework? Did you listen to the Kickstart Your Reintroduction webinar on Chipotle? How did that go? Did that help you feel even more prepared? Did it even give you even more background and even more understanding of what reintroduction is? I would love to hear that. Kathleen, what's going on? You've been sick today. Oh, bummer. You've been sick, but today you can eat again and your stomach is still sensitive. Yes. Also, I grew up on saltines and flat ginger ale. I don't know. I think we all did. Saltines and flat ginger ale. So I'm sorry that you weren't feeling well. If your stomach is still sensitive, a few general things like bananas tend to be incredibly well tolerated. Soft scrambled eggs can be really well tolerated. Applesauce, also well tolerated. Mashed potatoes, just foods that tend to, work really well in your system. They've got a good amount of carbohydrate in them. Maybe you're adding a decent amount of fat, so you're putting a bunch of ghee in your sweet potato. But it's just stuff that works well for you, that's relatively gentle on your stomach and gentle on digestion. Things like a salad probably wouldn't be your best bet today because of the fiber content. It's really hard to digest. Bone broth, obviously, if you've got some bone broth at home, whether it's Fond or another Whole30 approved brand, go ahead and sip on that and use that as the foundation for, maybe you make like a quick little simple homemade chicken soup. But all of those things hopefully will help you feel better. And I do hope that you continue to feel better and that your stomach continues to get more robust. So fantastic. Maggie is saying they have breaks. Yeah, your chips have breaks. I love to hear that. Genevieve, hi from Spain. Good evening. Lisa is making plantains for the first time ever. And you're stepping out of your comfort zone and trying new things. High five. We've talked about my plantain strategy. So I buy the ones from my local Spanish market that are super ripe. They're very brown. This is just how I like them. Althea of Matemji. I'm not sure how you pronounce it, but hang on. I've never actually heard her pronounce it, but that's Althea on Instagram. She's got some amazing plantain recipes, but I get the really brown ones. I slice them on a bias, so they're kind of diagonal, all to the same thickness. I put a pan on lower heat than you might imagine, like low medium, definitely nowhere near medium. I put a ton of ghee, or you can use coconut oil or avocado oil. I let the pan get really hot so it like sizzles a little bit. Throw my plantains down in one even layer, and then I let them chill. And I wait, because once they brown on one side, they will start to pull up from the pan a little bit, and then they're really easy to flip. That way you don't get them super brown on the outside, but they're still too firm on the inside. You got to cook them at a lower heat than you might imagine. So I hope that your plantains are delicious. I love it. Let's see. Oh my gosh, so many people in the chat today. I love to see it. It must be Whole30, day 29. Fantastic. Abby, good to see you again. Matthew, who is Emily, good to see you again. Susan, day 29, lost which day we were on over the weekend. Very common, totally common, because this just is like what you're doing. Feels very normal. It feels very habitual. You have your routines down. You've got your habits. You've got your emergency food. You know the foods that you love. You've got your favorite meals. We don't need to know what day it is. We don't need to know. Well, tomorrow we'll know. I'll tell everybody tomorrow that it's day 30. Happy Monday, Meredith. Hi, Kate. Weekend was great. Brandon went down south to visit his parents, so I was home with Henry. We did like a hike yesterday. I got caught up on some work, like writing things, some home organization things. I spent a decent amount of time just sitting on the couch watching a movie. I watched a movie on HBO Max, very off topic, called The Meal. If you have seen this, let's go talk about it over on Instagram, because it was the wildest movie I have seen in a long time. It was horrifically disturbing and absolutely glorious. That's all I'll say. But it was amazing. I'm going to have to rewatch it with my husband if he's down for watching it with me. Hello from the UK. Good evening. Patricia's doing great. Excited to begin reintro. Me too. Hey, Alyssa. Always happy to have Alyssa in our chat from Whole30 HQ. Renelle, good afternoon. Good to see you here again. And Erin. How are we doing? Michelle is on a cruise. Doing your reintroduction. Your 30 days ended on Saturday. So you've moved into reintroduction on a cruise. I got to tell you, I feel like you're in the perfect environment, because cruises, I have never been on one, but I have heard that cruises have an enormous amount and variety of food, from the most decadent to the most simply made and prepared foods. So I think you should be able to do just fine on your cruise with reintroduction, as long as you are able to reintroduce only one food group at a time and really stick with it. But like, enjoy those food groups when you reintroduce them. Absolutely do. I hope you have a wonderful cruise. And thanks for joining us from your cruise. Hey, Meredith. Took a break from watching the live, but made time to prep for reintro. We love to see it. Thank you so much. It's great whether you watch live, whether you watch the replay. You know, all of it is just reaffirming your Whole30 experience. It's reaffirming your growth mindset, that you're a healthy person with healthy habits. It's staying connected to your healthy habits. It's all just fantastic. We love it all. Lisa, let me move this down so you can like see my face a little bit. Weekend update: cooked Whole30 meals for the fam. Self-care, went to bed toddler early. My favorite. Oh, that's my favorite, going to bed toddler early. Like, let me climb into bed at 8:30. Gosh, do I love that so much. Got up early, spent some quiet time at Starbucks to journal. Oh, you're like living the dream this morning or this weekend. Living the dream, Lisa. I'm really happy to hear that you're having such a good weekend. Hello from Atlanta. Maggie's nodding her head. We're so happy that you're here for the first time live. Fully understand the pancake rule. Oh, Abby, tell me more. Almond flour muffins ran off with your brain and willpower. Fascinating. You know, the pancake rule is perhaps the least popular and most controversial rule on the Whole30, because it is the one that is like not black and white, in that there are some foods that we explicitly say are off limits during the elimination phase. We explicitly call them out. Potato chips, cookies, muffins, brownies, fast food French fries. Like, you can kind of understand, without me having to explain too much, why I wouldn't want someone to go through all 30 days of elimination eating restaurant, fast food French fries and potato chips and brownies and muffins. And also, these are and may prove to be a really fantastic, valuable, hi Henry, category in your food freedom, and that if you discover that you can't, gluten doesn't agree with you, but you still really want to make chocolate chip cookies with your kids, you find a gluten-free mix that works great. It fits you digestively, it fits your health goals, and also allows you to continue to make these cookies that are a tradition with your family. They absolutely have a place. But during your Whole30, what I have found in my experience and what I've witnessed is that during elimination, if people continually try to just recreate the foods that they used to eat with technically compatible ingredients, you're kind of going to miss the point. You're going to miss the idea of, well, if I don't eat a muffin for breakfast, what do I eat? Well, maybe I eat some eggs and some chicken sausage and some veggies and some avocado. And now we've got a more nutrient dense and satiating meal. If you continue to try to take your old foods and just shove them into a Whole30 mold, I'm afraid that people will miss a lot of the learning opportunity that is changing the food that you put on your plate. And it's interesting that you found this idea of almond flour muffins running away with your brain and willpower. That might just be because you're towards the tail end of your elimination and your brain is like, we could reintroduce these in 2 days. 2 days is as good as today. Couldn't we just reintroduce them today? It could be some of that for sure. And maybe you would taste them and you would be like, oh, these are only just okay. And I'm no longer, they're no longer going to live rent free in my head. But it is interesting how different people react to the pancake rule differently. And it's one of those things where it's I want to eliminate as few foods as possible and still have you be successful with the program. I want to be as hands-off as I can and still have you be successful. But there are some food groups that we have noticed people just generally really struggle with. And if we allowed them in the Whole30 in compatible form, sure, there's no added sugar. Sure, it's almond flour, but it's still a pancake. It's still a waffle. It's still a muffin. Would you have as much success? I don't know. We're always trying to kind of draw that line, walk that line with you. But it's interesting that you made this observation, and thank you for sharing that with us, Abby. Let's see. Michelle from Cape Cod. Judy came from some weekend vacation with family and stuck to Whole30 plan. I love to hear it. Fantastic. Sticking to it on the weekend with some people in town. Good for you. We love it. Hello, Laura. Another great weekend staying the course with lots of family visiting. Made food that pleased everybody. Yes. I have some smoky sweet potato chili in my slow cooker right now. There's nobody that meal won't make happy. I don't know who you would have to be to taste that and be like, meh. I miss my regular chili. It would, I guess those people maybe are out there, but I feel like I don't know any of them. Most of the Whole30 meals that you would serve to anybody, they would be like, this is delicious. This is hearty. This is satisfying. It's creative. It's so tasty. It's so filling. I love the variety. I love eating a bunch of different foods. This includes some ingredients that I don't normally eat. Crowd pleasers. Crowd pleasers, every last one of them. So we love to hear it. Susan has been listening to Food Freedom forever. Yes, slow slipping hit home for me and makes me a bit nervous. Okay, Susan, you don't have to. First of all, I love that you're listening to Food Freedom Forever. Now is the perfect time to start reading or listening to my narration of that book, just as a means of prepping for what's ahead, as a little sneak preview. But I also don't want anyone to feel nervous at the idea that at some point you will find yourself struggling to work your food freedom plan. That's normal. That is natural. That is expected. It would be like someone who started going to the gym and then read an article from somebody who's been a gym goer for 20 years. And that person was like, yeah, I'm not always motivated to go to the gym. And then you were like, oh no, will I always not be motivated? Yeah, that's definitely going to happen. 100%. 1000% you're going to wake up on some days and not be motivated. You're going to wake up on some days and not feel like working your food freedom plan. You're going to wake up and realize, oh man, I've been kind of letting my food freedom plan kind of lapse. And I've been lax in it and letting it lapse. And, I don't feel as good as I used to. That will absolutely happen. So you don't need to be nervous about it because it's part of the process and it's part of the course. This is how we learn and do better and continue to refine our plan and continue to work our plan. It is a practice for a reason. So I don't want you to be nervous about it. There's absolutely a plan for if and when and how this happens. I can absolutely and will talk you through it, but I don't want you to be nervous about starting something because some point down the line you might encounter a challenge with it. You're gonna. Let's just accept that as normal and then not rehearse for disaster. We're not going to rehearse for disaster. We are going to work our reintroduction so well that we're going to be super well armed in our food freedom to be able to answer the question, is it worth it? Do I want it? And then we're going to go into our food freedom working that plan consistently and checking in with each other here and in a variety of other places on a regular basis to see how it's going. That's what we're going to do. So you don't have to be nervous. I absolutely promise. We've got you. And it's all part of the process. It is all part of the normal process. Tiffany is feeling good. Really happy to hear it, Tiffany. That makes me very happy. Hi from San Diego. Your husband joined this round. Yeah, we love it when you two do it together. Some built-in accountability and a good relationship boost. At least I've heard from a lot of people. You have always failed reintroduction. Well, you haven't failed it, Henry. You haven't failed it. Go ahead, Henry. You can leave. Go ahead, buddy. You just haven't prioritized it, or you haven't understood it. You haven't understood the importance and the significance, and you haven't prioritized it. And that's okay, because you do now. And you and your husband are going to crush it because you're here, you're paying attention, you now understand, you're seeking to understand, you're gathering as many resources as you can and as much inspiration as you can. So you're going to this time. That's okay. You'll just be able to compare this Whole30 to other Whole30s where you didn't prioritize reintroduction and be able to say, wow, what a huge difference it made. Winning. I'm pumped. I'm so happy that you had that experience. Great. You'll have something to compare it back to. Fantastic. Patricia, listened to the webinar and the podcast with Gretchen and realized you're an obliger. I love that podcast. My very first guest on Do the Thing when I launched the podcast was, of course, my friend Gretchen Rubin. And I was like, Gretchen, I want to talk about all of your 4 tendencies frameworks in the context of the Whole30. Upholders doing the Whole30, questioners doing the Whole30, obligers doing the Whole30, rebels doing the Whole30. I want to talk about it all. And it was a great podcast episode. And if you listened to it and realized you're an obliger, then yes, what I wanted to do with that episode is help people learn how to lean into and make the most of their tendency to give themselves the support that they deserve during their Whole30. So as an obliger, what that means in Gretchen's 4 tendencies framework is that you respond better to external expectation than internal expectation. Meaning, if you say to yourself, Patricia, if I, Patricia, say, I really want to do the Whole30, I really want to commit to it, that is a challenging commitment to uphold just for yourself. But if you join a group, if you get a coach, if you show up at these lives as Patricia, and now I expect Patricia to show up at these, to pay attention, to do our homework, to work the program, to check in with us regularly, you can respond to that external expectation beautifully. So obligers need to set up external accountability to help them succeed with habit change. So there's no one tendency that's better than the other. It's not like one is an advantage and one is a disadvantage. They all have their advantages and disadvantages. It is knowing your tendency and knowing how to work with it to achieve the success you want to see. You know that you respond to external expectation beautifully. So you've already planned your reintro. You've got a calendar set. So now there's external expectation from the notes on your calendar that you are going to meet each of those days. And at the end of every day, I'm betting you're going to check them off, or you're going to write in your journal how it went. There's some kind of accountability there. And you're showing up to these. So you have accountability now here with this group and with me to continue checking in and say, how's your reintroduction going? How is the schedule that you're working on? So you've handled this perfectly. You've handled it brilliantly. Every way that you can think about of setting up that external accountability and expectation is only going to help you succeed more. Well done. I'm so excited that you listened to that right before reintroduction. That feels like a really good time to incorporate that knowledge and that information. Kim's also doing it with your husband. Congratulations to be on day 29. I'm really happy for both of you too. Way to go. It's Allison's birthday. Happy birthday, Allison. What are you doing to celebrate? I want to hear what you're doing. It's not cake and wine. That's fine. You're not missing it. Fine. Also, Allison, you are a grown-up and you can have cake anytime you want. It doesn't even have to be your birthday. You can buy a whole, I was going to say ASS. You can buy, I want to keep it PG-13. You can buy a whole cake anytime you want. And you can cut it into giant slices or tiny slices. You can eat it for breakfast. You can eat it for dinner. You can have it for dessert. You can even stick a candle in it and say happy birthday a month from now, because you're an adult and you can do that anytime you want. So I love that you're celebrating your birthday right now. I love that you're like not missing the cake, not missing the wine. I'm certain you're going to find other creative ways to celebrate. I would love to hear what you're doing in the comments. And then if you choose at some point down the line, because cake is just so worth it and so delicious, and in your reintroduction, you've realized that gluten doesn't mess with you, or that you can do a non-gluten, gluten-free cake and that would work great, and you choose to do that, absolutely go for it. I love buying myself gluten-free cupcakes once in a while, and it does not have to be a special occasion. So love it. Happy birthday. I hope you really enjoy your day. Brenda, it's your day 30. You mentioned it to your husband and he said it went by so fast. Yeah, we love to see. I mean, this did go by fast. I've been doing these lives with you now for a month. I started on, well, technically almost a month. January 1st is when I started. Yeah, that's a month, basically. And it went by so fast, and I love it. And hopefully these lives have helped give you motivation and encouragement and helped that time fly in a really wonderful and productive way. Welcome back, Pascal from Montreal. I'm so glad you're feeling confident and proud, as you should. As you should. Abby also watched the webinar, Good Information on How Reintroduction Provides Value for Food Freedom. Yes, I want to make sure that you have the link between reintroduction and food freedom. Reintroduction is the gateway to food freedom. Reintroduction is the textbook for food freedom. What other analogy could I use? I don't know. It is the professor for food freedom. That one doesn't work. I was stretching. Without reintroduction and that experience of comparing elimination to what happens when you reintroduce these foods, you won't be able to answer the question, is it worth it? You won't know. And if you don't know, it's going to be very hard to make the decision that serves you best in your food freedom. So understanding that link is super important, especially if you're a Gretchen Rubin questioner. If you're a questioner, this is all going to make so much sense, and you're going to be so bought in to reintroduction after watching that webinar. And we have the webinar link. I'm sure that we've shared the webinar link down below. I'm very far behind in comments, but here it is. It's on our YouTube channel. It's called Kickstart Your Reintroduction. It is a webinar that I gave in September, so just a couple months ago. Very current. Wonderful information. Captioned, ASL interpreter, very accessible. Share it far and wide. Elena, good morning. Feeling great. Ready for reintroduction in it 1,000%. I'm really glad that they've helped. I'm super glad, and I love to hear that you're in it 1,000%. I think everybody who's here today is in it 1,000%. You're obviously super committed. In general, the viewership for these lives have dropped off a bit as the days go on. People get really excited and they join and they watch in the first week, and then viewership starts to drop off. But the people that I'm seeing here today are the people I've seen coming every day, or at least commenting or watching the replays or regularly in my DMs on Instagram. And so, yeah, y'all are committed and you are absolutely in it 1,000%. And I could not agree more. Jessica is saying happy birthday. We are echoing that. Saw day 29 on the title and thought that wasn't right. I know. It's wild. It went by so quickly, and tomorrow is day 30, and that is going to be so exciting. Emily has a question. How should we think about reintroduction of foods that have technically Whole30 ingredients but are like siete almond flour tortillas? Yes. Emily, this is a really good question. We have historically never broken out pancake rule foods into their own day. And you certainly could if you wanted to. You could do siete tortillas. You could do a banana bread recipe that doesn't have any added sweetener and only Whole30 compatible ingredients. You could do, I guess, like a Jackson's Honest potato chip, which is just potatoes and coconut oil, technically compatible. You could have a day of those things. I suspect that when we think about having a day where we are eating banana bread and unsweetened cupcakes and mug cakes without any added sugar and Jackson's Honest potato chips and some of those foods, I would imagine we're all like, wow, that sounds like a lot to reintroduce all in one day. And I'm curious whether people think that would be like a good day for them, or whether that would be a food with no breaks day for them. Typically, we focus on reintroduction. We focus on reintroducing the food groups that we have eliminated by food group. And then we generally say, if you want to reintroduce siete tortillas, like do that in your food freedom. Play around with that stuff in your food freedom, because you could reintroduce, like when you reintroduce gluten grains, you could reintroduce your mom's banana bread recipe because it contains regular wheat, but the rest of the ingredients are generally Whole30 compatible, as an example. See how that works for you. Then in your food freedom, you could make a gluten-free banana bread recipe with no added sugar and see how that works for you and how it compares to the banana bread that had gluten. So is it the gluten? Is it the fact that you're still eating banana bread? Is it the delivery mechanism for the banana bread where you're always, you're pairing that, or you're only eating that for breakfast and you're not doing a more nutrient dense, protein rich, fat rich breakfast, and that could be problematic. There are a lot of different factors to consider when you reintroduce those food groups, but you can handle it how you choose. I would suggest not mixing these foods with other reintroduction food groups though. So I would say on, non-gluten grain day, if you choose to reintroduce, I don't know, like corn tortilla chips and oatmeal that morning, I would not say throw in a siete tortilla with it. I would kind of, again, separate that out. But you can either test them all on their own day, which could be a bit of a crapshoot, or you can work them into your food freedom and compare those foods to your elimination phase and your reintroduction of the real deal foods, the gluten containing foods or the dairy containing foods, and see how that works for you. So I would do that. I would imagine that some of these are going to be no big deal. I haven't seen too many people really struggle with substituting a lettuce wrap with a siete almond flour tortilla. I've not seen a lot of people struggle with that. I have seen people struggle with throwing a gluten-free bagel in for breakfast rather than, your eggs and chicken sausage and veggies and fruit as a side. There, it's kind of okay, I've definitely seen people go, my breakfast isn't as satiating, my blood sugar isn't as well stabilized, my mood and focus isn't quite as good afterwards. So I think it depends on the food or the food group. For me, I can make a no sugar banana bread. There's one recipe in particular that I've been making for a while, and I like it. It's good, but it's definitely not food with no breaks. I have one slice and I'm solid, and we usually don't even finish the whole loaf. It's enough to have one or two pieces over the course of a week, and then I'm good to go. But there may be some other foods like Jackson's Honest potato chips. I mean, if I had those in the house, maybe not potato chips, but for a lot of people, if you have potato chips in the house, the whole bag is gone, and they're definitely food with no breaks. So I think it depends on the food and what you choose to reintroduce. But I would, in one capacity or the other, also keep that separate from your other reintroduction food groups. That's a good question, Emily. That one comes up quite a bit. Userman is saying, I can't believe I made it to the last few days. It's the first time. Good job. You are a total baddie. You're a baddie. That's amazing. I'm really happy that this is the first time that you have stuck with your Whole30. I think that's incredible. Obviously, you watching these lives and tuning into the replays has made a difference and showing up for yourself here. And I think that's wonderful. Good work. Lots of non-scale victories today. More energy, feeling happier, fit into your winter workout leggings again. We love to see it. We love to see all those NSVs. I like it. Kathleen is saying even sick, you wouldn't give up on your Whole30. Good. I'm really happy that you are able to stick with your Whole30 even when you weren't feeling well. And I'm sure that your Whole30 habits helped you feel better sooner, or at least I hope that they did. So fantastic. It's also Michelle's birthday. We have some birthday twins here. So happy birthday to both of you. Michelle as well. Good morning. Made a delicious new recipe yesterday with your son, baked spaghetti squash with pesto, chard, and a fried egg cooked on top. That sounds delicious. I can't get enough spaghetti squash right now. I'm really into spaghetti squash with any kind of dressing. Pesto sounds amazing. Chard sounds amazing. Gosh, I'm into all of it. That sounds fantastic. Second Whole30 on day 27, first time joining live. Welcome. Really happy to have you. Been loving the replays during meal prep time, and you watched the Kickstart video last night. Good. I'm really glad that you were able to watch that and that you found it helpful. We have, of course, another person listening to Food Freedom on Audible. I hope you like it. It's been really fun to record that one. Day 30, welcome. We have a few people who started a day earlier, so congratulations. You are moving into reintroduction just a day early than the rest of us, but that is wonderful. Matthew/Emily is nervous to reintroduce. You thought you'd feel more excited, but you feel so good. This is really common where people feel so good that you don't want to not feel this good. And you're taking a chance on reintroduction, that something you reintroduce may make you feel a little less good. But I don't want you to stress about that, because if that does happen, if you do reintroduce something that upsets your digestion or makes your skin break out or makes you feel wheezy or gives you joint pain and swelling, remember you're going back to Whole30 elimination for 2 to 3 days between each food group. So if you do have one of those reactions, you will give yourself as much time as you need in between to let that reaction settle down until you feel just as good again as you feel now. And it shouldn't take too long unless you're super sensitive. But I imagine if you're super sensitive to something, you would already know it. And then after 2 to 3 days, you're going to feel just as good again. You'll have that learning experience and you'll be able to reintroduce again. If you want to take 4 days between food groups or 5 days, if you notice an especially difficult reaction, or you just want to settle back into your Whole30 elimination for another day or two before you reintroduce again, you absolutely can. You can stretch that reintroduction cycle out for longer if you choose. But that's why, in part, we have you go back to the Whole30 for 2 to 3 days in between. Because if something does mess you up physiologically, or if something promotes, cravings, stirs up your sugar cravings, or, makes you feel preoccupied again with this food or food group, you automatically have this like fail safe where you're like, okay, I'm going back to the Whole30 for 2 or 3 days. I can evaluate that reaction. I did not expect it to, make me react like that. I didn't expect that emotional response. Let's dig under the hood. What's going on there? What does that mean? You'll have a few days of returning to elimination and self-reflection to help you figure out what that means. So there's multiple reasons why you go back to the Whole30 for 2 or 3 days, but you definitely don't have to be nervous. I promise. Okay, Michelle is saying it hasn't been difficult and you introduced some cheese yesterday. Fantastic. I hope that it went well and I hope that you enjoyed it. Yes, we will share the webinar link again. There it is right there in the chat. You want to save it, go to Whole30 YouTube. Now would be a good time to remind you to please, where is my little thing? Here it is. Subscribe to the Whole30 YouTube channel. That's my fancy little graphic. And make sure you click that little thumbs up button, because that thumbs up button says that you like the video and helps YouTube send this video out to other people who are doing the Whole30 so they get info straight from the source, straight from us, to make sure that it's accurate. Emily is feeling a little sad that the phase is coming to an end. Yeah, I mean, I get it. When you are working on something that felt so hard and was a really big challenge, and it's something that you are really proud of yourself for doing, it's definitely bittersweet when it comes to an end. I think about finishing a race. That one time that I ran that half marathon, I prepped and I trained and I worked so hard and it was over. I felt so proud of myself, but I was also really sad that it was done. So I think that makes a lot of sense and it is very normal. And also, it doesn't mean that your Whole30 journey has to be done. You can stay connected to us and our community. You can stay connected through these lives. You can stay connected through your food freedom. You can stay involved in the community and help other people who are new to the Whole30. You can offer your own resources, your own support, your own encouragement, your own learnings, your own, empathy. And I've been there and I know how you're feeling. Doing that can really, almost like a volunteer, can really help you stay connected to your why, stay connected to your growth mindset, stay connected to your healthy habits. And then you get to feel just as good knowing that you're helping someone else have the same journey, the same success, the same non-scale victories, the same sense of self-confidence and pride that you had during your Whole30. So stay involved. Stay involved with the Whole30 community on social media, on Instagram, on TikTok, on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter, wherever you happen to be. Stay involved in the forum. Check the Whole30 hashtag once in a while on Instagram and leave comments on random people's posts. That looks delicious. Great work. Great non-scale victory. Awesome use of this like condiment or ingredient, whatever. People love it when strangers come into their feed and say something positive about their Whole30 experience, and you can be that source of delight and encouragement for somebody else. And I hope that you are. Thanks, Emily. And Emily is waiting for food freedom to be delivered any day now. Should be any day now. Erin loves cooking now and real plans. Heck yeah. What meal plan do I put in the planner to cook mostly Whole30 so you feel comfortable saying yes to the cake once in a while? So with real plans, you can continue to eat mostly Whole30 foods by just using their filters. You can just say, I still don't want any gluten, or I still don't want any wheat, or I don't want any pasta, or I don't want any bread, or, Real Plans is so incredibly specific as to the foods that it can include and can exclude in your recipes. So you can just tell it you can just essentially put in your food freedom parameters, whatever you have discovered works well for you and does not work for you in your food freedom, and it will continue to spit out meals that look largely Whole30 compatible. Or you can just keep going back through your Real Plan's Whole30 meal plan, because it gave you a ton of different recipes, and just keep making some of your favorites. So there's a lot of mix and match options on Real Plans, and it will help you not only through your fast track reintroduction, but Real Plans will also help you plan meals in your food freedom to keep the foundation of your meals, keeping you looking and feeling and performing your best, like feeling exactly as good as you want to feel. And then you can add in whatever you want that you discovered works well for you into your food freedom, exactly as you've described here, because I want you to say yes to the cake once in a while, especially if you've discovered a form of cake or the frequency of cake or the type of cake that is just absolutely worth it for you. So yes. And I talked about Jolly Ranchers in the presentation for reintroduction, and you like the grape ones. Well then, first of all, I don't even like Jolly Ranchers. They are my least favorite candy. I don't know why people eat them. I don't enjoy them. I don't enjoy hard candies. But if you like the grape ones, then A, you're in the minority based on my very extensive research for that webinar. And B, why don't you partner up with someone and you buy a bag, and then they get all of your least favorite flavor and you get all of their grapes. That feels like a win-win to me. I was in the gluten-free bakery maybe a month ago. I was picking up a few things for the family, and I don't stop there too often, but I was in there in the morning and I was getting some gluten-free carrot cake cupcakes, because those are my favorite. And there's another person, probably a gentleman, older, next to me. He orders first and he's like, I would like one of those red velvet cupcakes, but can you give me the one with the least amount of frosting? So the person's picking it out behind the counter, and I kind of jokingly said, you want the least amount of frosting? And he was like, yeah, I can't stand the frosting. And I was like, well, I feel like we would be the best pair ever, because I love the frosting. That's my favorite part of the cupcake. So then we just started making this joke about how we would just buy cupcakes, and I would cut the bottom off for him and he would cut the top off for me. And I think that would be a match made in heaven. My husband also is not a huge frosting fan, so I end up getting most of his. So it works out well. But if it doesn't work out with him, I guess that guy at the gluten-free bakery could be a good second choice for me. I don't know why I told you that story. Anyway, because it goes with the Jolly Rancher comment. Whole30 has fixed your knee pain and sciatica. You can bend your knees again and you feel 20. I love this. These are some of my favorite comments, because there's no way that this is not impacting every single aspect of your life in a positive fashion. Every single aspect. To wake up feeling pain-free, to be more mobile, to be more active, to be able to pursue some of the activities that you couldn't before because they hurt, or you were incapable, or you couldn't do them for a very long time. This makes me so happy for you, and I'm absolutely thrilled. And this is where in reintroduction, you'll be able to bring certain food groups back in and see if there are any particular foods that are triggers for this kind of, or this manifestation of inflammation in your body. And then you'll know. And then you'll be able to ideally craft your food freedom plan in such a way that lets you bring as many foods back in as you want, or as many as you can, but still allows you to live to this degree of feeling pain-free. And wouldn't that be wonderful? So thank you, Kim. I'm really happy to hear that. Abby's making that chili tonight, my smoky sweet potato chili. I absolutely love to hear it. That's one of my favorite recipes. The first bite of baguette and croissant. Yeah, you should. Look forward to that. Reintroduction is fun. It's where you get to bring the foods back in that you've really missed. And these are great examples of reintroducing gluten grains in a low sugar way. I generally encourage people to reintroduce foods that are rather low in sugar so you don't mix and match your experience. Because if you reintroduce a baguette during your gluten day, then you will be able to isolate, okay, it's probably the gluten, because the only thing in that baguette is the gluten and the fact that it's bread, obviously. If you reintroduce a donut, now you've got the combination of gluten and a whole whack load of added sugar, the likes of which you haven't had in 30 days either. So now you're kind of like, oh, is it the combination? Is it mostly the gluten? Is it mostly the sugar? It's hard to isolate those two different experiments. So these are good examples of reintroducing gluten grains, and I hope that you love them, and I hope that they love you back. Plant-based chickpea boats and lentil curry are delicious. Yes. Interesting. Chickpea boats have caused you to consider, yeah, tomatoes and nightshades. My son had eczema growing up as a baby pretty seriously, and tomatoes were absolutely a trigger for him. He can eat them now without much of an issue, but we still, we don't include them a ton in his everyday meals. We probably throw tomato sauce in like once a week. But yes, they are a very common trigger for skin issues as well, and that would be a good continued thing to experiment with. Absolutely. Let's see. Renella is saying the lives have helped and upgraded and getting the daily texts. Oh, fun. I love those daily texts too. There's no shortage of ways that you can get ongoing everyday support through the Whole30, whether it's Whole30 Day by Day, which is like the book club that this live series was based on, whether it's the Whole30 daily text messages where I send you a message every morning and every evening during your Whole30 to be like, here's what you might be experiencing today. Here are some resources that might help. And then at the end of every day, I send you a text that says, did you stick to your Whole30 today? There's your built-in accountability for the obligers. You have to respond yes or no. So yes, I'm so happy that you're finding the lives helpful and also that you are enjoying the daily text messages because I loved writing them. Stephanie is starting your period. Yeah, I know. It definitely comes with digestive issues for me as well. And you're worried about starting reintroduction, getting confused. I think that's a valid concern, and I think that's a smart concern. So you have a couple options. You can either wait until the worst parts of your period symptoms are done so that you don't have any conflating factors, or you could reintroduce, we're reintroducing added sugar first. And typically I don't see added sugar bringing on that kind of diarrhea, bloating, and sluggishness, especially not in, the normal quantities that we'll be introducing added sugar. Like if you're talking about a packet of sugar in your coffee. So maybe you could start the reintroduction schedule with us and just hope that the effects of your period are over by the time we get to the first reintroduction food group, which is legumes, which can absolutely cause the same issues that you're reporting here. Those are kind of your options, I would say. Or you can, I guess, reintroduce. And if you kind of know what the side effects of your period are, if you notice anything extra or on top of that, maybe you could assign it to that reintroduction food group. I don't want to say that you have to or should delay reintro, but I'm kind of like, if you know that this is coming and you know that you definitely get these digestive issues, maybe waiting another couple days would be the most helpful and give you the most information about reintroduction. So if you're open to that, that would be sort of your best case scenario. That's a good question. That definitely has happened, and that's come up before. Team Whole30, Oh, this is really an interesting question. I'm curious if Whole30 has answered this yet. Let me see. I don't think so. I'm going to answer it. So does coffee with cacao and date blended together? Technically, no. Technically, you can add fruit to your meals. Dates are fruit. So if you want to add dates to your coffee to sweeten it, it is not technically a Whole30 incompatible. So no, there are products that use dates specifically to sweeten them, like a few brands of ketchup, for example, that use dates as sweetener. And there are certainly recipes that use dates as a means of sweetening things. There are also recipes that use apple juice or cranberries or orange juice. So again, fruit, totally Whole30 compatible. And is this compatible? Yes. I would, of course, ask, like, why do you feel the need to sweeten your coffee like that? And is that habit serving you? It's not my business. You are 100% Whole30 compatible with this. And you get to decide if this is like, great, no problem, you're not even going to think about it twice. Or if you want to think about the idea of like, why am I working really hard to sweeten my coffee? And does that serve me? I can't answer that for you. Just a little food for thought since you asked. If you did not ask my opinion, I would not have shared. But there's your answer. So there you go. Michelle ran your fastest 5K in a very long time, a whole 35K. We love that. We love that. That is a great NSV. You cannot argue with those numbers. I absolutely love it. Fantastic way to go. I haven't run a 5K in a long time. Could I even run a 5K? I don't know. Debatable. Genevieve has loved these lives. When the daily email, the daily emails. Genevieve, that was a long time ago. The Whole30 daily emails were probably 2014-ish. And then Whole30 Day by Day came out in 2015 or 2016. I think 2015 or maybe 2014, 2017. I don't even know my own book order. My apologies. But daily emails were what kind of set the precedent for this book. We were sending emails out every single day. And then it was like, why don't we should turn like that concept into a journal. And then I wanted to do a whole lot more than we were sharing in the email. So yes, that is definitely kind of an old school offering that we used to have. And now we've got the journal and the text message series. So there you go. Progress. But I'm really glad. And yes, we can't do text messages overseas. Unfortunately, it's not us. It's like the carriers. But I'm glad that you were able to access the emails. Allison has made this is your birthday. You've made your favorite meal. Pulled pork, spicy tomato sauce. Love that. Amazing. Now you're going to go watch a movie. That sounds great. What a good birthday. I love that for you. I don't know if you're going to watch the movie called The Meal, but I'm just going to warn you that if you do, I think it's on HBO Max. It's very disturbing, but also amazing. I loved it. Maggie's a questioner, and you have had to live it to get on board with reintroduction. Yeah, I get it. Sometimes we really need to have the experience to be like, oh, all right, now I understand. So if you're willing to just trust the process and go along, even if you're not fully bought in, sometimes having the experience is what will have you go, okay, all right, I trust now. Cecilia, the chili recipe is in the Whole30 Slow Cooker Cookbook, but it's also featured on our website, so you can find it for free there. Yes. Melanie bought Siete almond flour tortillas. Love it. I really like their coconut cassava tortillas. The almond flour ones don't do well in my stomach. My digestion does not do well with almond flour. I have figured this out over the course of many Whole30s and many food freedoms, but I can't do any baked goods if they are almond flour based. I get terrible digestive issues. In fact, almond butter doesn't even sit as well in my system as peanut butter does. Peanut butter works way better for me. So in my food freedom, I eat peanut butter. And that is what Whole30 has taught me. But if you like the almond flour ones and they work well for you, go for it and give it a go, or you'll figure out whether they work well for you. You've been watching the recordings and staying committed a whole month, and it's your easiest Whole30 yet. Yes, good. I like that. Sometimes it's just working the program. And by that, I mean just continuing to show up for things like the lives or the rewatch, just staying connected can make it feel so much easier and so much more motivating. So fantastic. Oh, yeah, getting your period can mask how good you're feeling. I know. I understand. Hopefully it's only a few days and then you can get right back to feeling fantastic. Does added sugar include sugar alternatives? Yes, absolutely. Added sugar would include sugar in any format. So it might be maple syrup, it could be honey, it could be coconut sugar, it could be cane sugar, maybe it's stevia, maybe it's Splenda or aspartame, maybe it's erythritol, a sugar alcohol, maybe it's monk fruit. Absolutely. It can be any format. What we are testing in this instance is essentially what happens when I purposefully choose to make things sweeter. You are free to break it out into smaller groups if you choose. Again, any reintroduction category is going to include a variety of different foods. And if you want to really nail down the difference between like an artificial sweetener versus a more natural sweetener, you can absolutely break that out or spread it out, or you can save that experiment for your food freedom. But yes, reintroducing added sugar. And we'll talk about this more tomorrow when we prep for reintroduction day 1. But that's a good question. Serenity fits into all the Gretchen Rubin categories. She says that makes you a questioner then. If you feel like you apply to all of them evenly or equally, that makes you a questioner. That's a really interesting observation. But I'm glad that the lives are going to be helpful and the leverage you need. I like to hear that. Yes. Let's see. Lorraine is saying, looking forward to reintroduction, planning on these changes staying in your meal planning going forward. Yes, I love that very much. Maggie had a question. At some point after reintroduction, you found foods pushing vegetables off your plate. Well, okay. That is a really good question and a very astute observation. So, you reintroduced rice and all of a sudden you're not eating as many veggies. And you reintroduced oatmeal and all of a sudden you're not eating as many veggies with breakfast. And you reintroduced pasta and now your meal is pasta, meat, and sauce. So I would say continue to add vegetables even if you're reintroducing other foods, especially grains. So if you want to do a pasta meal, just make sure you chop up and small dice a bunch of veggies and put them in your meal. And maybe they're not super carb dense veggies, because maybe pasta plus a bunch of sweet potato on top of each other is like not, that's more energy than you need, or that would make you feel good. But things like peppers and onions and cauliflower and broccoli and mushrooms and kale and spinach, like I always have a bunch of veggies that I just automatically toss into any meal. So if I'm doing meatballs with real pasta and tomato sauce, I am dicing up a ton of veggies and I'm throwing them into that tomato sauce. If I'm having oatmeal for breakfast, then either I'm eating less veggies at breakfast, but I'll just make that up in lunch and dinner, and that's totally fine. Or I'm figuring out maybe it's oatmeal plus like a really light hash, or there's peppers and onions in my scramble. So I'm just looking for ways to continue to sneak in extra vegetables. Yes. So I think that's a good observation. Or maybe you just do a smaller portion of your grain and the normal vegetable that you would do. I do that pretty often. So I'll do my ground meat. I'll have a ton of vegetables, just a huge amount of roasted vegetables. And then very often in my food freedom, I'm eating rice very regularly, but I'll just have a small portion of rice. So I'm not going to eat a whole cup. I'll just eat like a half-size portion. So it gives me the rice, it gives me the carbs I need, because I think I feel really good when I run on more carbohydrate, but I'm still getting my veggies in. So those are a few things that you can conscientiously, deliberately do to make sure that you're still eating your veggies even when you reintroduce other foods in your food freedom. Great question. Let's see. And yeah, of course, Whole30 answered that too beautifully. Yes, casseroles, scrambles, stir fries. Absolutely. I love that. Anna found out you need to add soy to increase estrogen to your diet, and it feels weird going against the original rules. Well, again, Anna, remember, we weren't eliminating soy on the original Whole30 because soy is bad and you should never eat it. It happens to be one of the most commonly allergenic foods. Soy is very commonly allergenic. And even if you are not allergic, people commonly have sensitivities to it. However, I don't know if you would have a sensitivity to it. And even foods that you might have a sensitivity to can have other benefits. For example, my dad is sensitive to broccoli. It makes his stomach really hurt. It makes him really bloated and gassy. But we all know that broccoli has a ton of micronutrition, lots of vitamins and minerals. So just because you're sensitive to something doesn't necessarily mean it doesn't have other benefits. If you are being asked to add some soy products to your diet, I assume by a healthcare provider or an RD or somebody qualified, then try it. Add them to your diet and see how they go in reintroduction. If you find you don't tolerate soy well, then you go back to that practitioner and you have a conversation. Are the benefits of the extra estrogenic properties worth the downsides that I personally experience when I eat soy? So I made some tempeh the other day, and I don't know if I just prepared it wrong, but it definitely made my stomach upset. It gave me like a lot of gas, which I don't normally experience when I eat food. So I thought, all right, I'm going to give tempeh another try because I have eaten it before and it didn't give me that experience. So I'm going to try to figure out why. But I would have to ask myself, are the estrogenic benefits of soy worth the fact that every time I eat it, I get a really unhappy stomach? And that I can't answer for you. So absolutely go ahead and work with your healthcare provider. If that's a good idea to add those foods back in, for sure, go ahead. When you reintroduce them, pay attention to how they make you feel. And there's a really good chance that when you reintroduce them, they feel great. You don't have any issues with them whatsoever. And now you get all the benefits with none of the downsides. And that is a very real possibility. Good question. Let's see. This weekend, we made a spaghetti squash casserole with kite tail ricotta, which I have some of that in my fridge right now. Kale mushrooms, Italian sausage, marinara. Oh, that sounds so good. That sounds really good. I'm just going to eat nothing but spaghetti squash for the rest of the week, I've decided. Tanya is saying, I feel almost scared. It was nice having rules and you didn't have to think about it. I know. There are a lot of people for whom the Whole30 program rules feel very comforting because for a little while, we take all the guesswork out of what to eat. You don't have executive function. You don't have to rely on willpower. It's just eat this, not that. And that can feel very comforting for people, especially if after the first week or 2 or 3, you discover you feel great eating this way. That can be very comfortable. And you can still apply that level of structure and comfort in your food freedom if you choose. The difference is that you will be using your own rules and guidelines instead of mine. Because that's the point of food freedom. I want you to have the freedom to be able to bring foods back in that feel delicious, that feel special, that are culturally significant, that are important to your family. I want you to bring those foods back in. However, you can still create guidelines or rules, whatever, however feels comfortable for you, whatever word feels comfortable for you in your food freedom, if you discover that some foods or beverages are simply not worth it. So I have a hard and fast rule about gluten when I'm traveling for business. I don't eat it. It's never worth it. I know it's going to upset my digestion. It could upset my skin and make me break out. It definitely impacts my mood. When I'm on the road and I already have a lot of stress, gluten tends to hit me harder. So it's never worth it. That is my rule. That feels very comforting to me. And I'm not doing it because someone else said gluten is bad. I'm doing it because based on my personal experience of eliminating it and reintroducing it and comparing my experience, I know that in this specific context, this food does not work for me. So I have said, out of a place of self-care and self-love, I am not going to eat this when I'm traveling because that does not feel like I am being kind to myself. And because of that, I now have this comfort where I don't even have to think about it when I travel. Can I see your gluten-free menu? Does this side dish come, can I get vegetables instead of this pasta side dish? It's very easy for me to make decisions because I've created that for myself. But I've created it for myself from a place of self-care, not because someone else has scared me into thinking I shouldn't eat gluten when I travel. That's the difference. And that's what I want for you too in your food freedom. And we will get there during reintroduction when you compare your experience, and then as we talk further about building out your food freedom plan. So I've got you covered, and you are also not alone. A lot of people report that on the Whole30, and I'm glad. And let's try to take some of that comfort and predictability and carry it with you into your food freedom according to your own definition of what works best for you. Is there a link to things to choose from as we reintroduce? Yes. I'm going to cover these every single day in my live. So when we talk tomorrow about reintroducing added sugar, I'm going to give you a lot of examples. You can also find a list of examples on the Whole30 website. So whole30.com/reintroduction, there's a list. You can also find a bunch of examples in the Kickstart Your Reintroduction webinar. In fact, I take the Whole30, in that webinar, I take the Whole30 salad at Chipotle. And I say for every single day of reintroduction, here's what you could add to this salad to reintroduce that particular food group. So we are going to have ideas every single day, and I'll help you plan and prep, but you can get some guidance right now on the Whole30 website as you're thinking ahead to planning for your reintroduction days. Yes. Love spaghetti squash. I know, it's like a spaghetti squash fan account. That's what we're doing right here with Primal Alfredo, Butcher Box chicken sausage. That sounds so good. I know I have chili for dinner, and that chili is one of my favorite meals, but now I'm craving something with spaghetti squash. 93 watching and only 23 thumbs up. Come on, everyone. Thank you so much, Cecilia. You are definitely my hype person. I'm going to invite you into every single live so you can encourage people to keep giving thumbs up. Thank you so much. That makes me very happy. Kathleen, some people started at different times or had an oops day like I did. Okay, Kathleen is saying, I remember this. Kathleen is adding 10 days to the end of her Whole30. Is there anyone else who's going beyond? That can buddy up with Kathleen, provide support, provide encouragement. You can connect, leave it in the chat because we are looking to connect people who are in similar contexts. So I love that. Oh, here we go. Cecilia started late. It's day 26. You've got an extra couple days too. Maggie is saying encouragement. Don't be sad or scared. You won't need the rules. You will be surprised at how many items. Yes, you just don't want any more. The program works. Love to see it. Thank you very much. Genevieve wants the least amount of frosting. Well, Genevieve, you and I would be fast friends. Or you and Kathleen can be fast friends because you like Kathleen and I are on the same page. I love to see it. Tanya is saying I had terrible menopause symptoms, but have had none for the last 25 days. That's amazing. Some of these are just blowing me away. It's not that I've not heard them before, but I love hearing Whole30 success stories. And again, This is so profoundly impactful. No hot flashes, no forgetfulness, no irritability. You feel much calmer. Like, that's a huge non-scale victory, and I'm so happy for you. Thank you so much for sharing that. I mean, obviously, there's no cure to menopause. We don't need to be cured. Our bodies are going through the normal, natural, biological process, but some of the side effects can definitely be unpleasant. And if we can mitigate some of the symptoms, as you've done here, that just translates into a huge bump for quality of life overall. So thanks. That just made my day, Tanya. I love it. Possible NSV. Twisted your ankle the other day, which means you're nursing it, but this time it healed quickly. It could, Jessica. You know, when you're talking about having foods in your diet that provoke this low-grade systemic inflammation, what that means is that your immune system is kind of upregulated everywhere in the body, which leaves it less capacity to do its other jobs of like clearing plaque from your arteries or repairing damage from a twisted ankle. So if your immune system is more calm, then that means it is more ready and responsive to respond to acute issues like this. And maybe, I don't know, I can't see inside your body and I'm not a doctor, but could it be helpful? Yes, it absolutely could be. I know when I had my appendix out, this was like 2016, my appendix literally ruptured in the middle of LAX. And I had to have emergency surgery. I was up and walking around and my doctor was like, I've never seen anyone recover this quickly. And I was like, thanks. I eat a really healthy diet that works really well for me. And I don't know for sure that that was the case, but I would like to think. I've also got doctors like Dr. Luke Redinger, who wrote an article on the website about how the Whole30 can help you recover post-surgery. So there are a lot of medical doctors who do talk about the benefits of eating a diet that for you is anti-inflammatory and helping to heal from injuries and surgery and illnesses. And so yes, it very much could have. And I'm also really glad that you're feeling better because a twisted ankle is no fun. Kathleen is looking forward to the steak dinner that your husband postponed until reintroduction is done because of the seasonings and butter and peanut butter pie. That sounds good. I like peanut butter. I'm not a huge peanut butter fan. Like I can't eat too much of it, but I will tell you that the steak with the butter and the seasoning sound amazing. So I hope that you have an amazing dinner. You're watching on delay and excited for reintroduction. You took great notes last time. Fantastic. You think corn chips mess you up, so you'll avoid those and see if tamales and corn tacos are okay. Smart. Really smart. Every time you reintroduce, you have the opportunity to learn more about how these foods work in your system. So fantastic. Reintroduction is a lifelong practice. Every time you do a Whole30, I want you to reintroduce so you can put these learnings together. I think that's so smart. Abby is saying holding out on drinking your morning decaf with nut pods until you've eaten a full breakfast. Oh, I like that. I mean, food before coffee, especially caffeinated coffee, if you're drinking it, is a really smart move if you find that you're just like not that hungry in the morning, if you're trying to reset your eating patterns and hormones to a more normal biological window of eating while it's light out. So I think that's a fantastic strategy. And if it's working well, then I think it's great. Fried up plantains pancake rule. No issues whatsoever. No. I mean, if you're making them at home and they're a little bit crunchy, you can make your own plantain chips at home. In fact, if you want to, you can make your own apple chips. You can make your own kale chips. Those are not super deep fried in a whole bunch of vegetable oil. They tend to be not as much food with no breaks because you're making them yourself and there's not as much salt and fat and maybe added sugar as there would be in the store-bought version. So absolutely not. No problems whatsoever. We're going to wrap up for today. It's 12:03. I have a couple more calls, but let's just see what else we're saying in the comments. Doing Whole30 for digestive issues. They haven't changed, but you're not as drained. So Susan, good question here. Sometimes we don't realize that we are feeling better until we reintroduce and feel worse. This is an incredibly common experience. I will have people say to me, I don't really feel that much different. And then they'll reintroduce something and they'll go, oh crap, that really hit my digestion. That really hit my energy. It really hit my cravings. It really hit my joint pain and swelling. I guess I was feeling a lot better, but the improvements were so gradual that I didn't notice them. It wasn't like I woke up one day and everything felt better. So that is a distinct possibility. If you reintroduce and nothing affects you because your digestion is still so disrupted and so poor, that like you couldn't tell the difference anyway. If that ends up being the case, then that also gives you valuable information, which is even in the presence of removing many food groups that are commonly problematic for digestion, there's still something going on under the hood with you. And that would be a fantastic time to now say, I've done the Whole30, I did elimination, I did reintroduction. These are the things that I noticed, but I still don't feel great. And have a functional medicine doctor do some very specific lab testing for you to see what's going on. So you now walk in with a really good foundation of, I've eliminated all of these food groups for 30 days. Here's what I experienced, whether you felt any better or quite a bit better or no better. And then you can take that information and start doing some specific tests to see what else you might need to do in your unique context. So let's see how reintroduction goes, and let's see if you have the experience of reintroducing and either not feeling any change whatsoever, or if reintroduction helps you realize that in some aspects you really were feeling better on the Whole30. We will see how that goes. You were thinking of making a Kelly LeVeque Fab 4 smoothie with her vanilla protein powder for day one reintroduction. I think so. So first of all, I love Kelly, and I will have to look at what her smoothie powder includes. But if every other ingredient is Whole30 compatible and the only thing is extra sugar, then that would be perfect. Just make sure it's not like a whey-based protein or a soy-based protein. I can look the ingredients up for you and like give it a quick peruse because I don't know them off the top of my head. But as long as all the other ingredients are compatible and the only difference is that there's sweetener in it, that would be a great addition, I think, yes. Elena says, is reintroduction like being on Whole30 and only eating the foods you love when you really want them on those days? It can be. And that's more of what I have always historically referred to as like a slow roll reintroduction, where you're not purposefully reintroducing food groups on a specific day. Instead, you're just continuing to eat Whole30 until you stumble across something that is so special and so delicious that you want to reintroduce it. There are pluses and negatives to a slow roll reintroduction, and I will say that the vast majority of people should reintroduce on a set schedule. Because if you leave it up to chance, there's a really good chance that your reintroduction will not be as precise, right? You're going to continue to eat Whole30, and then the pizza at the dinner party looks so amazing that you just really want to reintroduce it, but now you're reintroducing gluten plus dairy, and it's harder to tease it out. Or you're tripping along, eating Whole30 happily, and then you go to like a special buffet dinner and there's like 4 things on the menu that look so extravagant and so delicious you want to try them, but now you're reintroducing sugar and gluten and non-gluten grains and dairy all at the same time, and it's hard to tease it apart. The vast majority of people should do a fast track reintroduction where they're reintroducing specific food groups on specific days, one at a time, carefully and systematically, so that you can avoid some of the messiness of, I'm just going to take it as it comes. So that's my like short answer for that. And I do talk about fast track versus slow roll in Food Freedom Forever, but for the purposes of these lives, we'll be taking people through a fast track reintroduction. And that's what most people should do anyway. There you go. Emily is saying, I'm like cool to stay a little bit longer. I think my next call, I have a call coming up in a little while, and it's with Mark Sisson, by the way. So I will tell him that you all said hi. He's a dear friend. But I can stay for a little bit because I don't really have to prep for that call. It's just to catch up. If you have scale victories, is it something you prefer to keep private and still focus on NSVs? That's an interesting question. Here's what I will tell you. You have the right to share and be proud of anything and everything you choose about this Whole30 experience. And I will not ask you to limit 1 ounce of that pride or joy in sharing your experience. Whole30, as a brand, we do not share or promote weight loss testimonials. So you, Emily, might on your Instagram feed share a before and after photo, posed in a bikini with your scale weight underneath, and you're so proud of your Whole30 accomplishments when it comes to weight loss. Whole30 will not share that because as a brand, we don't share those photos because we find that those photos tend to make people associate us with weight loss diets, and like they just kind of jump to conclusions about what Whole30 is and isn't. However, I will always affirm the things that you are proud of. And I will tell you how we've chosen to handle it as a brand. If somebody comes into the Whole30 feed and shares their Whole30 experience and they say, I have tons of NSVs, I feel better, I'm sleeping better, and I lost 18 pounds and I'm so happy, we will say, congratulations, love to see those NSVs, I'm so happy you feel better. We will acknowledge without purposefully like hyping up or promoting the weight loss. That's not what we do, but you are absolutely encouraged and allowed, and I like affirm and honor that for you. So it's really up to you. If you want to share scale-related victories, go for it. I will be so happy for you if you are happy with them. If you come to me and you say, Melissa, my Whole30 went amazing, I lost 20 pounds, and that's the only thing you tell me, I will respond, I am so happy to hear it. I love to hear when Whole30s go well. What else? Tell me what else happened. How do you feel? How's your energy? How's your sleep? I will encourage you to share more victories with me beyond just weight loss, but like you don't have to. And I will never poo-poo you, or I will never negate the accomplishments that you yourself are proud of. So I hope that helps to understand it. I hope I've done the Whole30 HQ team a service in answering this like as thoroughly as I can to be put on the spot. But we've talked a lot about this. We've talked a lot about how do we handle comments on the feed that say, my Whole30 was awesome, I've lost 17 pounds. And we would never say it's not about weight loss. We would never say don't share your weight loss. What we do say is, I'm so happy your Whole30 went well. Tell me more. How do you feel? What are you the most proud of? Like, explain. And if they choose to, awesome. If they choose not to, we will still say congratulations and be really happy and really proud for you. So hopefully that answers your question. And that's a good question, Emily. Share as you please. Kathleen, I am so happy to do all these lives. Thank you very much. These have been so fun for me, and it's really going to be bittersweet for me too when we stop doing them every single day. But I'm going to be here several times a week. We will continue to check in. It will still feel really good, really positive. I'm going to offer as much encouragement as I can. You can always find me on Instagram. Sounds like I'm saying goodbye now, which I'm definitely not even in the least. So, but I really love them too, and thank you. How often should we consider doing a Whole30? I'm going to table that question, Michelle, because I would like to talk about that when reintroduction is over and we start talking about food freedom. I've already mentioned that I want you to reintroduce and then work your food freedom plan, right? I don't want you to reintroduce and then automatically go back into a Whole30 because you're nervous about food freedom. I really want you to work your food freedom plan because that's what the Whole30 is designed to do, to get you to food freedom. So let's talk about in our food freedom how often you should do a Whole30 and when and why, because there is a big conversation in the book Food Freedom Forever about this topic. And I want to help you discern between I need another Whole30 and I just need to start paying more attention to my food freedom plan. And I want you to live here in your food freedom plan as long as you possibly can. So we will come back around to that. Tabor is saying you're up at 4, work 6 to 5, eat at 7:30, and you have Rise Mushroom. I don't know what Rise Mushroom is. So I can't answer that for you. I'll have to do like a little digging, but I can't look now. But I don't know. I assume that that's a drink, but I'm not positive. So I'm going to have to do a little lookup on that, and I can get back to you on that tomorrow. Okay. But I think, obviously that's like a long schedule, and it would make total sense that you would want to have like a little, maybe it's a functional mushroom beverage or something between 5 and 6. Yeah. I'll take a peek for you. Tiffany also wants to know how often you do it once a year. We will absolutely talk about that. Heck yeah. We sure can. All right, so now is a good time, I think, to wrap it up. I've went through all the comments. I think I've answered all your questions. We are bringing day 29 to a close. Look at those little thumbs up have gone up. Thank you so much, Cecilia, for reminding people to give us a thumbs up. Tomorrow's day 30, and I will be here, and we will be celebrating all the NSVs, all the Vs. Any victory you want to share, we will be here to celebrate. I will be here to affirm, and also tomorrow, we're going to talk about planning and prep for your first reintroduction day, which is added sugar. And I will be live helping you prep and plan for that as well. So tomorrow's a good day to tune back in or to watch the replay if you can't come live. But thanks for joining me today. It's been really, really fun to see and guide you through these last 29 days, and I can't wait to celebrate tomorrow. So it'll be a fun one. Join me then, same time, and we are excited to see you. Meet in the Whole30 HQ team. So until tomorrow, have a good rest of your day 29, everyone. Finish strong.